Everybody, Andrew Cuneo here with another Alchemy video. Today I'm going to be trying to play Jeskai Control in Alchemy. I worked on this deck some before the new Murders at Markov Manor cards came out, but I've updated it with a few of them. So the new cards that I've included are, first of all, Mapping the Maze. So what this does is it lets you get a multicolored instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand, and it makes that, well, it makes any card cost an additional blue when you get to draw a card. So you don't have to do it only on the multicolored instant or sorcery card. You could do it on some other instant or instant. I guess you could do it on, choose an instant or sorcery card in your hand or graveyard. Okay, so it has to be an instant or sorcery. This card's a little bit confusing, as you may have just heard me trying to puzzle out. So it does two things. It gets back a multicolored instant or sorcery from your graveyard, and it adds additional blue to the casting cost of an instant or sorcery, and when you cast it, you draw a card. It doesn't have to be the same target, but the easiest way to think about it, or an easy use case for it, would be like you have Lightning Helix in your graveyard, you cast this card, the Lightning Helix goes back to your hand, and it now costs white, red, blue, and it draws a card when you cast it. So if you do that, you get card advantage, and you also get card selection if you're playing it in a deck that has a bunch of multicolored instants and sorceries. So in this deck, I've got Lightning Helix, No More Lies, Flame of Anor, and Ill-Timed Explosion as cards that you can get back. It would be nice if there was a little bit more variety in what you could do with the multicolored cards, but I didn't see any that really looked particularly appealing to play with in Historic, outside of these, at least in the Jeskai colors. So kind of the basic impetus of this deck is, I think Reprieve is a really good card in Alchemy. And there's also No More Lies, which is a very good card in Standard right now, and getting to play with 8 good 2-mana counters was the main appeal. I think that the mana, even though the mana is worse in Alchemy than it is in Standard, it's still pretty reasonable to play a 3-color deck. And then Lightning Helix is also just, it's a good card. It's kind of a better card in a controlling deck than it is in an aggro deck, because in a controlling deck you really take advantage of the life gain, whereas in an aggro deck a lot of times you're playing matchups where you just don't care about the life gain, and you're just playing like a hard to cast lightning strike. But in this deck, you're going to play long games where you want to be able to use your life total as a resource to get to a more advantageous spot down the road. So the life gain is going to give you more margin to work with there. So those are the multicolored spells. If you haven't played with, this is a Lords of the Ring card that is, it actually I think sees some play in Modern, and it sees a lot of play in Historic. So the reason it's played in Modern and in Historic is because people tend to have wizards in play, so you get both of you get to choose 2 abilities. Here, this card is really, it's just either 3 mana draw 2 cards or 3 mana kill a creature, 5 damage to a creature. You're not really ever going to get the second mode. I think there's a way you can do it with one of the spellbook cards we'll get to in a second, but it almost never comes up that you get to do 2 modes. It's really just pick which of these you like the best, and every once in a while you blow up an artifact, although that doesn't happen that much in Alchemy, I'd have to say. Another new card, Shove Aside. So this is Strangle, but it's an instant if you're on the draw. That's pretty appealing for a controlling deck. I wanted to have a 1-mana card in my deck. It's good just in general, whenever you can, to find reasonable 1-mana options to incorporate into decks, because it gives you more flexible play patterns where, if you feel like you're falling behind and you've drawn your 1-mana card, you can play 2 cards in a turn and, catch back up, essentially. One copy of Change the Equation. It's not a great counter in Alchemy, I would say, but it is a 2-mana counter that hits an awful lot of stuff, and I think it's just generally a pretty good card. One card I feel compelled to play with that I'm not wild about is Get Lost. You need to be able to blow up enchantments because of the Insidious Roots decks. And also this gives a way to get rid of planeswalkers, obviously, or creatures. Although you kind of have cheap creatures covered with Lightning Helix. And the more expensive creatures you're hoping to counter, or you'll kill them with Flame of Anor or Sweeper. But you do need some way to get rid of enchantments, and I think this is the most reasonable main deck way to do that. 2 copies of Ill-Timed Explosion. So this is a pretty nice sweeper, I would say. Like, you're gonna, when you want it to be a sweeper, it's gonna be 4 mana, probably deal like 3 or 5 damage to everything in play, and you'll get to, filter through 2 cards, and then when you don't want a sweeper, you can just get to draw 2 cards. And like I said, this works with mapping the maze, which is nice. Another sweeper, Sunfall, obviously just a very good card. We'll skip this one for the time being. So one of the things you can do in Alchemy, and one of the reasons the mana works pretty well for a 3-color deck, is you can play this card from Lord of the Rings, Lórien Revealed, that it's just an island cycling card. So when we get to the mana base, you'll see that I've got both of the blue Surveil lands. So you can get any of the Jeskai colors, as long as you're willing to tolerate spending 1 mana to get it comes into play tapped land. You'll always be able to fix your colors eventually with this. So that's like the basic control elements of the deck. Then we need to talk about, okay, how are you actually going to win the game? And so I took inspiration when I was making this deck from the white-blue control deck that's pretty popular in Standard. That deck generally wins through Wandering Emperor. That's not available in Alchemy because Alchemy has rotated that card out. Alchemy is actually, part of the reason I like it is just that there aren't the cards that have been legal in Standard for 2.5 years that just aren't legal in Alchemy. So there's more room for new cards and trying different things. So you can't use the Wandering Emperor. So I'm using this card, Intrude on the Mind, which it's kind of like a fact or fiction where you get a 2/2 or a 3/3, but your opponent's getting to pick the pile. This card's pretty good. I don't know that it's, I wouldn't say it's great, but it is pretty good for sure. It doesn't really reliably win the game for you because you're just getting a 2/2 or a 3/3 most of the time. But what it does is it builds up an advantage. It allows you to play defense. And also, importantly, it's an instant. And this deck really wants to play at instant speed as much as it can. So that's the card I'm trying. I played a fair amount with it in this deck. And I started with, I think, 1 or 2 copies. And I've gone up to 3 copies. Because I think it is something, most games you're going to want to cast this, have the option of casting this on turn 5. Or, at one of the later points in the game, you're going to be happy to be casting it. Then we got Kai's Kindling. So this is an Alchemy card that's been around for a little while. I've tried it in a few decks. It is pretty good, but it is a little bit slow. So what it does, it's 5 mana enchantment. It deals 2 damage to any target when it comes into play. Then in your upkeep, you start getting spells from the spellbook, but you have to cast them the turn that you get them. So it's like the way a lot of red card advantage works. But the spells in the spellbook are pretty varied and all actually pretty good, or almost all pretty good. So Seasoned Pyromancer is obviously just like a generally above rate creature. It probably would be too good to be printed just as is into Standard or into Pioneer. It was a direct to modern card when it was made in paper. Just a generally good card. Not really like a great card in this deck because you don't really have any synergy with it, but it's still just overall very, very strong card. So you're happy to get that one. This is kind of like a neutral, I don't need anything in particular, but I'm going to pick this one when, there's no option that's immediately appealing to me because you do need to cast it the turn you see it. Lightning Bolt, obviously super, super great card on rate. You're playing a deck with Lightning Helix, and you are eventually going to probably burn your opponent out. As we go through this Kai's Kindling spellbook, you're going to see that it's a lot of kind of burn. So, you're either killing a creature or you're just dealing 3 damage to your opponent's face. Terror of the Peaks, big expensive creature. This one, I would say, even though this is like a pretty reasonable card, you don't have a lot of ways to like take advantage of the abilities of the Terror of the Peak. So it's just like a 5-power flyer for 5, which is a little bit clunky, but it will end the game. So obviously, like, you're happy to take it if you aren't going to do anything else with your mana. Abrade, generally a very good removal spell. Young Pyromancer. Oh, I thought this was going to be a wizard that would work with Flame of Anor, but I guess it's not. Maybe there's a wizard in the spellbook, but so far I don't think we've seen one. This is another card that's a little bit like Seasoned Pyromancer, where it's, you don't need anything in particular, but you just want to get, start getting an advantage. So you'll take that under those circumstances. Explosive Singularities, maybe one of the worst cards in the spellbook. It, if your opponent's at 10 and you have 10 mana, you kill them. So you would want to take it then, but it's generally too expensive for what it does to be a card you want to pick all that often. Unexpected Windfall. This is kind of like Seasoned Pyromancer again, in that it's like just you're build an incremental advantage rather than answering an immediate issue. Siege Gang Commander. So this is kind of like, I think this is the better version of Terror of the Peak in most games, just because you're getting something that's harder for your opponent to interact with, and you have a lot more play options with it because you can throw the 2 damage around as needed. Electronic Dominoes. This card is too inefficient to ever be a card you would actually put in a constructed deck, but as something you're just kind of getting for free, it's actually pretty powerful. So, sometimes you're going to find Electronic Dominoes and you're going to sink 7 mana into it and deal 5 damage to their biggest creature and cast an Intrude upon the mind from your hand. And once that starts happening, you're getting a huge advantage and you're most likely going to win. Crackle with Power. This is the easiest way to kill your opponent. Once you get up to, if you have 8 mana in play, this deals 5 to 2 targets. It deals 10 to 2 targets, sorry. At 8. And is that right? Yeah, that's right. And then if you can get to 11 mana, you just win the game. But anyway, this is like one of the best cards to take, I would say. Cleansing Wildfire. This one looks a little bit odd, but actually winds up being pretty useful a lot of the time because there are some pretty annoying lands that people can have. All the creature lands, Mirrex, Cavern of Souls is sometimes annoying. And, just having a cantrip that downgrades their land to a basic land, essentially, and then you get to draw a card. This is really nice. This is, I think, one of the ones that you actually want to pick a lot of the time, where you don't have, your opponent doesn't have a creature, you have to kill immediately, and you don't necessarily want to sink, 5 mana into Siege Gang Commander. Just play this thing, make their lands in play slightly worse, get yourself a new card, get a little bit of an advantage, and, set up for the longer game. Volcanic Fallout, obviously, decent sweeper. If you're playing against the Boros Convoke deck, a lot of times this is going to be pretty good, but not. It deals damage to you, which is kind of annoying. Can't be countered, which is pretty irrelevant. Banefire, another pretty easy way to end the game. So you just get a big X spell and fireball your opponent for 12 or something in the game. Dualcaster Mage, this can be really good. It's completely dependent on what's in your hand. And remember, you have to cast it on your turn. So, if there's a reason you want to double a Lightning Helix, this card winds up being pretty good. And then Gutter Snipe, this is one of the weaker ones, I would say. This is one of the just general creatures you can get to get a little bit of an advantage, but this is the worst creature, probably in the spellbook. So, I would generally not want to pick that one unless my other options were just expensive cards I wasn't going to cast. Looking at the mana base, similar to the standard blue-white deck, I've got 4 Restless Anchorages. Also 4 Seachrome Coasts, because in the Jeskai mana color combination, this is the only fast land you can play. So I've got, whereas if I was building Esper, I probably wouldn't have 4 Seachrome Coasts. I would have a mix of Seachrome Coasts and Dark Slick Shores. But in this color combination, Seachrome Coast is the only option for this kind of land. So I've maxed out on those. Maxed out on Restless Anchorages. There is another creature land, the Restless Blue-Red, and I guess the Restless Red-White. But they're both just way worse than Restless Anchorage. So I've maxed out on those, which led me to, I only have 1 Meticulous Archive in my deck, which I would be willing to play 0, but I want to have one to be able to get with Lórien Revealed. Then I've got more Thundering Falls because there's an imbalance where I've got 8 of these blue-white lands, so I'm going to have more red-blue and red-white lands from the other cycle, which is why I've got more Thundering Falls, and I've got all my pain lands are in the red-blue and red-white. Then 4 Captivating Crossroads, just as I've said in almost all my Alchemy videos, this is just like a super pathway. And 1 Mirrex, this is another way to win kind of a late game. It's important to note, if you're playing a pseudo mirror where you're playing against another control deck that has Mirrexes, your only way to get their Mirrexes off the board is to get Cleansing Wildfire out of the spellbook. That isn't something that... There aren't a lot of people that play that style of deck in Alchemy, but it is pretty annoying when you play against someone who actually has Mirrexes and is trying to win that way. I've stolen from the blue-white standard deck the idea of having Chrome Host Seed Shark in the sideboard. I'm not sure how... Historically, I've always hated having sideboard cards like this, but it has seemed to be pretty good in the games I've played. I don't know. I tend to hate it having transformational things because I think if it's easy for your opponent to anticipate that you're going to do the transformation, then you wind up in a worse spot if they have an easy answer to it. But I think Chrome Host Seed Shark gets a little bit awkward for people to leave answers for it in their deck, so it winds up working out some of the time, or a lot of the time. Other notable sideboard cards. 2 Shove-Asides. I think it's just generally a very strong card in the kind of matchups where it's going to be good. 1 Destroy Evil. I wanted a card, another way to get an enchantment off the board, but I also wanted an answer to Sheoldred that wasn't just hitting with Get Lost. 1 Stone of Erech. It's tricky sideboarding against the Insidious Roots decks. At least like Soul Guide Lantern, if you can't get the Insidious Roots off the board, the Soul Guide Lantern like actively hurts you to use. This card I think is a little bit better because it has the static ability where, you know, if a creature an opponent controls would die, you exile it instead. So your sweepers like Ill-Timed Explosion aren't just loading their graveyard up. That's the idea. And then also 2 Temporary Lockdowns because this is a card that gets a lot of the permanents out of the Insidious Roots deck off the board. And also 2 Brotherhood's Ends, which this is more against like a Boros Convoke style deck. So one of the things that's nice about this color combination is you have a large set of options for just really good sweepers, I would say. A Negate, just to have another counter. And then this is something that I think applies also to blue, white, and standard, where if you're looking for sideboard cards specifically for that style of matchup, I think just having more copies of Mirrex in your sideboard is like the best thing you can do. You want a few more counters. Like I only have 1 Negate, and standard people usually have more like 3 or 4 counters in their sideboard. And if I thought I was going to have to play more blue mirrors where I really wanted to negate, I would have more counters in my sideboard too. But once you board up a couple of counters, I think you really just want more copies of Mirrex, and you're going to sideboard in a way where you're just going to have more lands in your deck after sideboarding. Like the way that the Mirrex mirrors work, or just any kind of control mirror where both people have access to Mirrexes, is that the person who draws more lands just is at a massive advantage. And one of the ways you can make sure you draw more lands is just have more in your deck. You should be very comfortable boarding up, like going up +1 or +2 lands when you sideboard. This deck I think has 26 lands in the main deck, which might seem a little bit low, but remember I have the 2 Lórien Revealeds, which are mostly going to function as lands. All right, let's play some games. So I might want this on blue, but it is also somewhat annoying that both my red sources are pain lands right now. It doesn't really cost me anything to delay for a turn my decision, or well, to delay my decision till turn 4, because I would be able to cast if I drew No More Lies or Lightning Helix off the top of my deck. I was going to be able to cast them just by playing a Battlefield Forge. Yeah, I'm playing against my Dinosaur deck, probably. I'm going to continue to play in a way where I'm trying not to take damage from my lands. Seems like it's the Dinosaur deck. If you haven't already, I made 2 videos on this deck. It's a pretty good deck. I'm just gonna name red. Don't have a reason to need like a bunch of blue mana right now. I've never played against this deck before. Can't counter that because I can just pay the 3. I'm assuming these are both on Dinosaur. They are. I'm probably just going to go end of turn, kill a creature, untap Guy's Kindling. Oh, that's annoying, actually. I've never had that card be good before. I think I'm gonna kill that and kill Ruby. We'll just take less damage. Now, if they have a way to blow up this Kindling, I'm going to be in rough shape, which... It's not a way to blow it up. I don't think I can get anything out of the spellbook that really saves me, I'm not sure. I could top deck Sunfall off the top of my deck and be very happy. Volcanic Fallout. Something enough. I guess Seachrome Commander would probably be able to live. But never mind, we're not playing Seachrome Commander. Oh, wait. Man, Pro Blue is brutal. I need to dig for Sunfall. Or I could also find Lightning Helix and combo it up with a card from Guy's Kindling to maybe live. Or they could have Tranquil Field back to get rid of Guy's Kindling and now it would just be sad. I think I maybe could have won this game if, when the Scale Speaker Shepherd was in play, I killed it with the trigger on the stack. So this would give me... Jump blocker. This does not produce a blue creature. So I'm tapping so that if I find a Lightning Helixes, they'll be castable. Did find a Lightning Helix. So... obviously, if I did a Lightning Helix and a 4/4, that would give me the other pile. So that's not good. I guess I want Lightning Helix. Splitting with this card is very confusing for me. If I do that, I think that's the best I can do. So this way they have to either give me the Helix or give me a 3/3. But I guess give me a 2/2. I think they picked the wrong pile. Oh, they might just have a card that kills this. Am I dead here? think I'm going to 1 unless they have a spell, but it seems like they have a spell. That was brutal. Dinosaur beat down against the dinosaurs. Probably want more copies of Shove Aside. Maybe Destroy Evil is better than Shove Aside. Just kill 4 toughness things. Another sweeper wouldn't be the worst. I think I'll lead on the Restless Anchorage. Plan to play Mountain. That way I'll have access to change the equation and Lightning Helix for turn 2. Also, it's not really that clear what I would want to do with the Scry right now. Like, I'll certainly play this as soon as there's a turn where I don't mind playing a tap land, but I think waiting a little bit to make the Scry decision is good. I think I'm just going to kill this. Slow them down. Probably I'm going to just counter whatever they do this turn and untap and draw 2 cards. Hoping to find another land. I did surveil a land away because I didn't think it would be that hard to come up with a 5th land. Still have 1 more shot. And if I miss next turn, it's not the end of the game. All right. Can blow that up with Flame of Anor if need be. Out of my way. I'm shoving you aside. Oh man, I was going to map the maze for that. I don't want to tap out so I can't play No More Lies. I guess I could map the maze. I'm not going to map the maze for Real-Timed Explosion because I don't really want another card that costs 5. We're going to map the maze for... I guess I could map the maze for the Lightning Helix in my hand and then return the Ill-Time Explosion. It's such a weird card. Want a new card. So I guess I didn't really... I essentially just cycled this and then Helix my opponent. That really wasn't that exciting of a series of plays to make, but I think I just want to keep making sure I make land drops and leave up No More Lies, because I know that they've got expensive dinosaurs in their deck. And I'm about to get to the point where I can comfortably play Kai's Kindling with No More Lies available to me. And this is going to start putting pressure on them to do something. Hopefully the something that they do isn't just pull it up with Tranquil Frill back. It would be nice if there was a better card that functioned like this. For a while I played with the 6-mana Chandra. And the 6-mana Chandra might be better in this matchup. I thought overall it was a much worse card than Kai's Kindling. Do they have a dinosaur they can get right away? No. I don't know if their draw was really bad or they're just being really cautious around removal, or around counters. I guess they drew a lot of land. One Restless Ridgeline. No skip into that. This would be more scary if they had dinosaurs in the graveyard. They don't have any dinosaurs in the graveyard right now. There's not really a need to kill it this turn. They exile my blinged out Lightning Helix? No, I still have the blinged out Lightning Helix in the graveyard. Could animate this and try to block. It seems like if they're making this attack at this point and they have all these cards in their hand they're not playing, it's very likely that they have like a Braid or something like it. So could take... just take Siege Gang. I think I'm fine with using all my mana on Siege Gang this turn. I think that it's probably going to get abraded, but I'll still have to run on Goblins. Not a braid, but same type of card. They didn't go after my graveyard again. Ooh. That's scary. Okay. Getting naturalized, which that's kind of annoying. I will be Sunfalling. Classic combo of draft the, what's the name of this guy? Siege Gang Commander. So next turn you can just have a big incubate token from your Sunfall. It's a great play. Both on Dinosaur. I found Reprieve to be very effective against that deck. So I'm going to deal 2 to them. I'm not going to be able to No More Lies the Trumpeting Carnosaur, but I will have the option of playing No More Lies on whatever they discover into. So like if they had a spawning pod, I would have to double No More Lies it, but I would definitely do that for a spawning pod. If they hit like Wingman Vantasaur or Polani's Hatcher, probably the same thing. Because really, as long as this Kaya's Kindling stays in play for a turn or 2, the game's going to end. They could easily die in my next main phase if I get the right draft pick from the spellbook. We could have played for that and they didn't. Okay, they 100% should have just paid for it rather than throwing away a second copy, but it wouldn't have mattered. Bang. I guess I'm reasonably happy with how I sideboarded. Out of my way. I'm going to leave up Reprieve this turn rather than playing Lightning Helix right away. If they don't do anything, I do think I'll Lightning Helix the Ruby. Just to want to use my mana for sure, especially in a case like this where I'm probably going to be playing Reprieves. In subsequent turns, it's nice to just like have additional spells. I don't know that what I just said made any sense. I guess really just the point is I wasn't going to go through the turn without using my mana. I need to kill this thing this time. Draft pick. On the stack. Would have been nice to actually be able to counter that with No More Lies or change the equation. Wasn't in the cards though. Draw 3 and just hope to find Sunfire or Sunfall. Guess if I whiff, I'm in trouble. This ill-timed explosion can't get big enough to kill the trumpeting Carnosaur. I guess I could ill-timed explosion, and if I draw either a shove aside or a lightning helix off of it, it'll be good. This game, I'm not going to be able to kill him with Sky's Kindling, because I'm probably about to discard the Sky's Kindling, and they've already got a Naturalize in their hand, but I should be able to kill them with Restless Anchorages if I can stabilize. So, let's leave red mana. Well, I can change the cost. I wonder if you incorporate... Incorporate probably doesn't change the mana value of the card. Yeah, it's because... Maybe it does. I don't know. Okay, that's a plan. I'm gonna let him. I'm gonna force them to decide whether or not to attack first. I don't think this really makes sense to do anything with this Lórien Revealed. I don't think I'm likely to cast it to draw 3 anytime soon, but I also think I'm not going to want to make it used to make a land drop. I guess there's some argument to like thin a land out of my deck, but I don't think that's a very good argument. Oh no, they're getting rid of my graveyard. It hadn't occurred to me that this would be a problem with Mapping the Maze. I think probably I have at least one too many copies of Mapping the Maze in my deck. Alright, so now... Am I casting this? Yeah, there's a danger that I just die to the Restless Ridgeline now. And it's not just a danger, it's actually a reality that if they try to just kill me, it would work. So we're going for the bluff plan here. That Tranquil Frillback was brutal. I thought I had solved all my problems when I found that Destroy Evil. Oh, the bluff plan is working. Nice. Still definitely in trouble. think if they weren't willing to spend their mana on anything else, they obviously should have just attacked with the Restless Ridgeline. Like, I could see not wanting to attack with the Restless Ridgeline there because you'd be concerned that if I have, like, Flame of Anor, you'd just kind of took a big tempo hit and put me back in the game, but obviously if you just don't do anything with your mana, that's... you're guaranteeing that you're taking a big tempo hit. I think the land is more valuable. So this way, I would assume they're going to give me 3 cards and a 2/2 rather than a 3/3. And I think I'll... if they give me 3 cards and a 2/2, I think I'm just going to take the hit. Or, actually, I'll just chump. The 2/2 is going to be completely irrelevant to the game. But they gave me the 3/3. Rather than giving me an extra copy of No More Lies, which I guess they didn't know. They don't know that I already have one No More Lies in my hand that's been kind of useless. So maybe from their perspective, the No More Lies seems like it was going to be relevant. But, I mean, still, like, they lost their 1 creature in play to have that happen, which seems not great to me. Oh, I can double incorporate on the Flame of Anor. This card chains in a way where you start building up an advantage. That's kind of nice. I'm going to build the most busted Flame of Anor the world has ever seen. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to get 2 modes. So I built it up to the point where I'm getting 1.5 modes. Now I've got a full 2 modes, although you have to pick draw two cards as one of the modes, and you also have to pay 2 extra blue. So it wasn't a perfect remodeling, but I think it'll serve its purposes for this game. Okay. I guess it in some ways it's better because I could just choose the draw 4 modes, or the draw 4 cards mode. So that would be fun. I don't think I'm going to do that this turn. I think I'm going to... I already have a land drop for next turn. I think I'm just going to not cast either of the Flame of Anors. Either way, I'm going to be making a thing with Mirrex. Now, this turn I would definitely use a Flame of Anor. Might use 2. They should probably animate their Restless Ridgeline and just force me to play Flame of Anor. Because assuming they're playing something that's very similar to my list, they don't have anything else to do with their mana. I mean, they also could have spent their mana on naturalizing one of the mites, which I understand why they're not doing that, but given the fact that they've got the 2 naturalizes, I'm just never going to expect Kai's Kindling to do anything. So their naturalizers are actually kind of useless if they're not using blow-up mites. I don't think I want to play the draw 4 one because it would just lead to me discarding, probably. So we're going to play the draw 2 unupgraded version of Flame of Anor. And I will be missing my land drop. Maybe they'll animate and try to block this turn, and I can... Flame of Anor, the Restless Ridgeline. Maybe not. Yeah, I don't... They obviously had that 1-turn window where if they had gone for it, it would have worked just when I was at 5, I think, or 8, and they had the Tranquil Frillback. And they could have hit me with the Restless Ridgeline and the Frillback to kill me, and I actually just didn't have anything. I think they messed up that turn a little bit, and then... That was, I think, a legitimate hard decision, maybe. But after that, I drew well enough to make it so that I could get back in the game. I don't think the opponent has played aggressively enough to give themselves really any shot. No More Lies. No More Lies was surprisingly bad in this matchup. I guess it's because they have that deck has Cavern of Souls in it. I'm kind of assuming that Cavern of Souls is not a heavily played card in Alchemy. Do I want 2 more cards? Maybe not that bad. Could go for a map token, though. Oh, we're getting hit by the Witchstalker Frenzy. Yeah, these should not be in their deck. I don't know why that's in the deck after sideboarding. Alright, so I have enough mana. I can play Ill-Timed Explosion to just draw 2. And even if I didn't find a land, I was still going to be able to play Flame of Anor and change the equation. So I think that was a safe play to make. Oh, I got to fire off the Flame of Anor now so that I can upgrade it into its final form. How much does this cost? 6. No, it costs 5, actually. It's kind of disappointing. I have too much mana tapped to fire it off there. It's another Anchorage biting the dust. I didn't take any time to actually count my mana to see how reasonable it was to use that map. I'm assuming that it's fine. I think that this game is over. Need one more spell. He didn't have it. There are some blue-white decks that play that card that are very good. I played the wrong land. I should have played Seachrome Coast, so I could make a decision next turn about whether I want to have Lightning Helix or No More Lies. As much as I think this is a great card, it does sometimes confuse me, because I made a decision with it assuming that I was on the play, and I'm on the draw. I wonder if they're playing a deck that has the new imp on it. It's like Cackling Imp. That's not its name. There's like it's black 1 for a 3/1 that exiles a card from your opponent's hand while it's in play. That's a very strong card. Oh, they're an Esper deck. Okay. Playing Esper Pirates. Yes, I might want to be able to play Repeal and No More Lies, or Reprieve and No More Lies in the same turn. Oh, it's a Mirrex. Annoying. I thought I was going to be in pretty good shape, but them just having that Mirrex is probably actually going to make this game really hard to win. Even though I put Mirrex in my deck a lot, this is probably number 2 in like my most hated cards they've made in recent memories, with Sheoldred being number 1. I don't like Mirrex because it makes playing more controlling decks, it's just so much about like making sure you make all your land drops. So probably give me these 3. Guess that's fine. Sheoldred is my most hated card just because it makes so many other cards irrelevant. And it forces everybody to play removal. They can kill it or they're just not going to be competitive. Like if you ever wonder why like green-white tokens is never a deck in Standard, it's because Sheoldred just makes it seem laughable. Kind of assume this thing's going to die, but maybe it's not. They're playing black, so probably some of their removal spells would go for the throats. I'm sure because it's Alchemy and they're playing Esper colors, they also have Porcine Portents. Okay. Here, I think they would give me All-Timed Explosion. I think they should. I'd be much happier if I get the Kai's Kindling pile, but I think if they understand how Kai's Kindling works, they're not going to do that. Okay. That's fine. I'm going to be Sunfalling next turn. I think it's better to preserve 1 point of life at the expense of getting 1 extra poison. I guess I also don't have to Sunfall. Sunfall, I could just do this. I still have to hang back on defense because they're going to make the Mirrex token. Deep Cavern Bat. Try again. Are they going to reprieve their own Deep Cavern Bat? No more lies. Why would I lie about a bat? It isn't particularly punishing that this is getting to resolve. Also, I'm just going to repeat, why would I ever lie about a bat? Is this a wizard? No, it's a Thopter. It'd be nice if it was a wizard. I think I can afford to start attacking. I do need to... I can't just sit here forever, because if I never do anything, they'll eventually win with the Mirrex, but obviously that is it would take a lot of turns. Doesn't matter what I pick. Guess this is fine. They knew I had this when they attacked, so they should have had some sort of a plan. Forcing them to tap their mana. Who did I kill? Gix. Right. I guess Cryptic Coat is a card that I could consider playing. I really just don't think this is a good enough card for Constructed. I know that people are kind of excited to try it, but it really doesn't strike me as very good at all. I was on the draw this game, so I can just kill this in my upkeep. Bang. If they have Reprieve, it doesn't matter. If they have no more lives, it doesn't matter. If they have Negate, I'm going to be sad. But I don't think they have Negate. Had they not conceded there, I would have had the option of attacking with Restless Anchorage, but I don't think I would have done it, because it seems really likely that in that spot they're going to go for the throat in their hand. They have a bunch of cards that have been sitting in their hand for a long time. Do I even want Sunfalls in my deck? I kind of think no. I don't think I want to change the equation either. I'm going to board in Seed Sharks. I did see that one Sheoldred, but I didn't see a ton of... I didn't really see any other targets, which makes me hesitant to board that in. I'm going to board in these Shove-Asides, because I saw all those... I saw multiple Gixes and the Bats. I guess I'll leave... I think I'll just take all the Get Losts out of my deck. They don't have enchantments. I was thinking this can kill Sheoldred, but I do have the 4 Flame of Anors that can kill Sheoldred. And I can rebuy them by mapping the maze, so I'm going to hope that's enough for a deck that probably does. They probably have like 2 Shieldreds in their deck, and that might be the only real target I care about hitting with, potentially with Destroy Evil or Get Lost. They do have the pig killing card, Lend a Ham. So if my transformational sideboard plan caught them unaware, they've taken all their Ghostly Throats out of their deck. And they don't seem to have enough mana to Lend a Ham, so decent chance that this thing just wins the game for me. It's possible that they drew, well, they drew a tap land, so it's bad news for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they concede after seeing my hand. Nope, can you soldier on? All right. Probably the only way I could lose this game is if I just decided to try to play Kaya's Kindling right there. I didn't want to use... I could have obviously used the reprieves they knew about, but all that's going to do is they're going to pass again, and like we're going to repeat the same thing in their next end step. So that's a little bit awkward for me, so I didn't really want to give them that. Like, that's kind of the best window they're going to get, I would say. All right, I do have the option now of playing Kindling, and it's more appealing for sure. What's the worst that could happen? They untap and, like, Lend a Ham, the Seed Shark. Yeah, I think that this is a good enough window to do this. I'm going to kill the bat so I can get my Flame of Anor back, and I'm not going to attack just because I don't... They could easily have an okay turn if they just went Gix, attack with the Siren, hit me, draw a card, find a land, play a land, and, like, you know, play some 2-mana card. So as long as I don't attack there, it makes it a lot harder for them to have a really good turn. All right, well, that went pretty smoothly. That was pretty nice. I guess I would have liked it had I had access to a 3rd Sunfall against the Dinosaurs deck. So I could definitely see cutting probably one of the Brotherhood's ends for another Sunfall. I definitely have too much stuff against Boros Convoke style decks right now. Like, you don't need to have Cast into the Fire and 4 3-mana sweepers when the deck already has 2 4-mana sweepers in it and 2 5-mana sweepers for that matter. So I could see wanting another Sunfall. Also, I think that 3 copies of Mapping the Maze is probably too many. It's not a very good card to have 2 copies of in your hand at the same time. If you're really interested in building a great Flame of Anor, you would want to continue to play with 3, but I would probably go down to 2. And, you know, you could move. You could either play another Change the Equation. You could move as shove aside into the main deck and make a little bit more room in the sideboard. Or, you know, you could add another Sunfall to the main deck if you really want to be good in the matchups where Sunfall is important. There's, you know, lots of options. You have to decide how you, like, what area you want to improve in. This card it seemed pretty good in the games again. Like it is really hard to, at least I'm having a hard time figuring out how to split it, because a lot of the time it seems like people generally want to get, most opponents default to giving you 2 cards in a 3/3 is the way that it usually works. But I often feel like they're making a mistake, and they should be giving me the 3 cards and the 2/2 pile, because usually the 3rd card is like a land that's completely worthless and you're just going to discard to the hand size. I was splitting very quickly in this video just to keep things moving along. So maybe there were spots where I could have done it better, but I do think that it's harder than fact or fiction, because you have to be thinking about, like, how is your opponent going to decide to value the cards. And I think that actually people tend to overvalue, like, whatever the worst card is, because the worst card is generally going to be in the pile that has 3 cards and is giving you a 2/2. And usually that worst card is almost worthless in a lot of game states. So I think that certainly, like, the one person who gave me the 3/3 that just immediately traded with the only creature they hadn't played, the Tranquil Frillback, I think made that specific mistake in, like, a really bad case. But I think in general, it seemed like people were making what to me seemed like a mistake, at least. I don't know. This card is very tricky to play with, I would say. It wasn't that tricky to play with in Limited, because in Limited it was just always, like, so good that it was hard to do it wrong. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.